We're still in this period of it's the wild, wild west in the digital era, right? Where companies and technologies are outpacing regulation. So I think that will sort of catch up a little bit. So I think the future on that is yet to be seen, but it will definitely, there will have winners and losers, right? Based on kind of how you're operating now and with that uncertainty. But yeah, it'll continue accelerating, and I don't think it's going anywhere.
I will start
Very good.
with this intro. On this episode of IKAG, I know a guy who is a product marketing manager for Simplify. Today, our guest is Corbin Cunningham, a product marketing manager for Simplify, a leading programmatic advertising platform. Programmatic advertising, video advertising, utilizes advanced technology to target specific audiences and increase the effectiveness of video advertising campaigns. With Corbin's extensive experience in the industry, we're excited to dive in the world of programmatic video advertising and learn more about how this technology is increasing the demand for media content. How'd I do?
That sounded pretty great. Thanks for having me, Dan.
I have an admission.
What's that?
I didn't actually write that.
Oh, no?
You knew?
No, I said, oh, no. I was surprised. It sounded good. It sounded like you, but...
Yeah, no, that was ChatGPT.
Well done to you both then.
Yeah, it was like a column A, column B effort.
I mean, you can't do it on his own, right? He's got to have some guidance there, so...
Yeah, well, I don't trust it yet.
No. Why?
Or maybe never. I might not ever trust it. But yeah. Okay. Tell me fill in the gaps there with what I just said. Tell me a little bit more about who you are and what you've done, and yeah, just
Sure.
I've known you for years now.
Yeah, quite a while, I'd say. But yeah, pretty good intro there as far as where I'm at now. So previously, out of school, studied marketing at UTA. So nothing crazy there, but enjoyed it, kind of cut my teeth in sales, went into marketing, and then stayed in startups. So did a lot of really scrappy work, a lot of Facebook and Google campaigns. So, obviously didn't know everything there is to know about marketing, but tried a lot of different stuff, did everything from social media campaigns, email, blog posts, website development, a little bit of everything. And then kind of got tired of the startup world, tried to do my own little consulting type thing, right? Worked for a couple different companies, and then just got tired of chasing clients, trying to find where the next gig was going to be coming from, and then decided to settle down and worked at Simplify. So worked with a lot of developers, a lot of really smart people trying to figure out how to take their products to market and what the best solution for that would be. So I thought I had a pretty good understanding of digital marketing until I started learning more about programmatic, and then really decided or figured out that I didn't know what I didn't know, that sort of thing. So a little lead into that where I am now.
So, and don't mind, we're right at the end of the jetway here, or the runway for DFW Airport, which is very convenient for our business, because I can get on an airplane lickety-split
That's
and
nice.
be anywhere in the country and doing work for Meticulous. But okay, so how many years have you been, tinkering in the marketing world for businesses and this at this point?
Close to 10 years, I'd say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, within that decade, how much have things changed? Have you witnessed the change?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've all seen, the privacy concerns come up, right, with Facebook and Apple and Google, that sort of tech giant arena, playing out. So how the data has been flowing, the cost of things going up, right? The users and views on things, right? So Facebook, Instagram used to be significantly less saturated, cost less. Now it's gone up more. TikTok is kind of coming to that space now where you're getting more views on content, at least on the social side. So definitely changes constantly in a fast-paced environment to keep up with.
What is programmatic advertising?
So programmatic advertising is the use of basically data from your smartphone, from your tablet, from your CTV now even, using that behavior either online or offline to serve you the right ad at the right time based on what an advertiser is trying to accomplish.
So this is that technology where I'm pretty sure at this point, everybody that has a phone and some sort of social media profile has perhaps experienced this, where you are searching for a product or a service that you need or are interested in, and then you continue on with your day and you're, on Instagram, on Facebook, on just Google or maybe any other website, and suddenly that advertising is, within the subject in which you were searching previously, that product and that service that you made, right?
Exactly. Yep. So everyone's familiar with Google, right? So you go to google.com, you make a search, and then they show you results based on that search. So it's that same premise, but across the broader internet as well. So that also applies to, like I said, your devices as well. So your geolocation. So let's say if you go to a local store or a Best Buy or an Academy or something, and then you go home and then you see Best Buy or Academy ads on your tablet or on your CTV, then it knows it's associated that device with your activity to then serve you based on where you are geographically as well.
And some people might see that as kind of freaky.
Sure. I mean, different companies handle it very differently, and that's what I like about Simplify in particular is they don't match any device to a particular user, right? So they don't say, hey, we have a profile on Dan Maitland. They say, we know that this user did this function or did this activity, like I said, either search behavior, they visited a particular website or your website, or went somewhere and then serving you an ad based on that. But they don't say, hey, we're building a profile on Dan, sort of like we've seen Facebook and like Cambridge Analytica did. So that's where they do a really good job of not, being invasive in that sense.
But it's, I suppose for the person that is purchasing these services, these programmatic ad campaigns and creating them, what is the value with this technology for somebody that is purchasing programmatic or targeted ads?
Yeah, so a lot of Simplify's clients are agencies, right? So they work with a lot of different brands. There's a lot of brand direct work. There's channel partners as well. So radio stations, TV stations, local newspapers. So a wide array of different advertisers from really, really small to very, very large. So it of course depends on, your objective, on what your goal is. Social media is going to be good for a lot of conversions for D2C products in particular. So, direct to consumer. So if you're trying to sell, a hat or a pen or something that's kind of a quick, low information decision, you're going to get those conversions probably a little bit better on social media. But if you're trying to do awareness campaigns, if you're trying to get your brand really jump started and get traffic to your website or leveraging a CRM database of customers as well, that's where Programmatic is really useful to maximize that data that you've collected or the traffic that you're seeing.
So it's there's this ability to utilize data to hit like a niche target, targeted audience. Mm-hmm. Therefore, okay, I think it kind of works like this. The internet breaks humanity down into categories and subcategories. I mean, we'll just take Reddit, for instance. That's what it does.
Mm-hmm.
Your business most likely is within a specific industry vertical. Therefore, one would figure that your advertising efforts, probably need to hit a very specific portion of the population. Whereas in the advertising yesteryear, you would create a commercial or some sort of advertisement, and it would be, sort of a shotgun approach.
Right. The wide net. Yeah, exactly.
Right. A wide net. Is that what that's called? Is that, or
both terms?
Sure.
Yeah.
It works.
Whatever analogy you want to go with. Yep.
But now utilizing technology like Simplify has and in this programmatic targeted ad campaigns, using this data, you can get specific.
Definitely.
As somebody. Yeah. How specific can you get?
Yeah, so if you look at, Facebook and Google, you can do sort of the behavioral targeting we've talked about. They have demographics as well. So, age, gender, even income in some cases. And when it comes to programmatic, you can get a little bit more granular. So you can get to the occupation level. Simplify has a tool called addressable audience curation. So you can actually curate a custom audience based on over 3,000 demographic variables, including what type of vehicle they own, how old that vehicle is, like I said, occupation. So all those things where, like you're mentioning, you say, okay, I know that maybe you're a B2B company and you have a very specific buyer that you're trying to get to. Maybe you're trying to find engineers or healthcare providers. So then you can go into this tool, select that occupation, select the age, all those factors, and then it actually generates in real time that audience that you can then serve ads at the addressable household level too.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So you can pick, your creative type, whether you want to do just display ads, if you want to do some video, some pre-roll or some YouTube, or all the way up to the CTV to sort of, like you're talking about, where linear used to be, a broad buy of saying, okay, we want to hit a national buy or a regional buy based on what we think this target audience is going to be watching. That's the advantage that programmatic has, is that you don't have to guess which content they're going to watch. You can, tailor it to the person, and then whatever they happen to be watching, you can bid on that ad.
So I was thinking about it the other day. There was some sort of interaction here at the office where there was an advertisement that, someone was like, oh, I was just looking. I was like, yeah, okay, we probably share like the same IP address or something like that. And anyways, they recognized it. And there was this sort of like, every time this happened, someone witnesses, takes a peek behind the curtain. There's always this like, oh, well, that's creepy, or they're listening. But then I was thinking about it, and it kind of makes things much more convenient for the customer, because things that you are receiving, the advertisements that you're receiving, are specific to you. You're not getting bombarded with things that are not applicable to your life. So in a sense, it's a bit of a two-way street in that regard.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's how the internet's paid for, right? You pay for your access to the internet, but then to use the websites on the internet, typically they're all free, right? Or at least the most popular ones are. So that's the trade-off, right? Is you're going to see an advertisement either way. That's basically what powers these free services. So, there are a lot of polls out there that, people say, I really like it or I really don't. But you're going to see an advertisement either way. So either you have something like you just pointed out is either very relevant that you enjoy, that you never would have seen that product otherwise, or it's completely relevant and you're getting ignored anyway. So,
well, it's like, what? Okay, yeah. So I don't like the fact that it knew exactly that. Well, okay, well, what's the alternative? You're getting something that is completely not related to you, and then you're like, this is stupid, and so yeah. I mean, what a good sort of dichotomy. It's a two-way street, which is great, which is beneficial. Video programmatic. Here at Meticulous Image, we deal with video production. Well, media production, even podcasts and things like that. But video is kind of our main jam here. What does video programmatic advertising look like? What does perhaps Simplify or any of the, what sort of campaigns, and what is video capable of when it's put into a programmatic vehicle, we'll say.
So think about it in kind of two ways. So think about a YouTube advertisement, right? So you go and you watch that pre-roll video of, you go and you're searching, maybe you're trying to learn how to fix a car, you're trying to find out more information on a product or whatever the case is, or just look at cat videos. You go watch an ad, then you get access to that content. So there's that part of it that you can still apply all that target advertising to. And then you can also do with the connected TV or the over-the-top TV services. So that's what we're seeing, kind of that linear replacement of, you hear a lot about the cord cutters or the cord nevers these days, of people not purchasing cable subscriptions anymore.
Never heard cord never.
Cord never, yeah.
Oh, like I've never had a cord. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right,
like
yeah,
cable.
Exactly. So like, maybe the younger generation especially, they've moved out, they've gone to college, they've never purchased a cable subscription, right? They've got Netflix, or they've got Disney Plus or Hulu or, whatever any of those services are, and they've never actually had that. So that's becoming much more popular as well. So then advertisers are now looking and saying, all right, especially if we're trying to reach those younger generations, how can we get to them if they're not watching cable? So that's where connected TV comes into play, and you can really get the accuracy of digital targeting, right, with the reach of linear. So you've got that type of person that's, whether it's on the big screen or on the tablet, you've got the full attention, versus kind of on Facebook and YouTube, you're not as attentive, right? Versus if you're watching a TV show, you're kind of more engaged with the content, right? So that's where CTV comes in, where you can get that really high level targeting while you've got their, full attention on whatever that the media they're watching.
So define CTV, connected TV, just redefine that, just so that, for somebody that I mean, I guess, is it just strictly cutting the cord and just existing solely off the internet, whether it's YouTube TV or Hulu or?
Yeah, so connected TV device is basically just a smart TV. So it's connected to the internet, right? And then it can access any of those streaming services. So you're not required a cable box or a satellite dish to watch content on that.
Okay. So this is a relatively new sort of like concept for me personally, as somebody that generates material for televisions, phones, computers, what have you. My understanding is that there is, I'm going to do my best to try and detail this. Okay, say you're watching the Cowboys game on cable, your traditional cable format, there, and it cuts to commercial. There are national spots, and then there are local spots. And, so a national spot might be maybe a commercial for like Coors Light. And everyone watching that football game around the country sees that Coors Light commercial. But then there's a segmented portion of advertising within that commercial break for local. And it typically cuts to like a car dealership somewhere in, we'll say the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex, like a classic Chevy or something like that.
Huffines has it.
Yeah, right. And then, And then it cuts, everybody knows the jingles, they're local, and then it cuts back to the game, or perhaps cuts back to a nationwide spot. And, so my understanding is that connected TV affords the opportunity to install programmatic video advertising within a sort of broadcast. So now you might be watching the Cowboys game on connected TV, and there might be nationwide, spots like that Coors Light commercial. But then when it cuts, it's not necessarily to something local, but it could be something incredibly niche, specifically for you. Or it could be something incredibly local. It could be something, we'll say, for like, I don't know, your dentist, or for the dealership sort of a premise where you last bought your car. Like, because that data is now programming the video advertising to be specifically for you. Did I do that concept justice?
Exactly right. You're not selling this stuff, are you? Are you
not
getting
yet
commission on that? Okay.
Just making stuff for it.
No, that's exactly right. So yeah, you kind of take that guesswork out of, like we were talking about earlier, of if you think your target audience is going to watch the Cowboys game, and like you mentioned, you're selling beer, a lot of those people aren't going to be old enough to drink, or they don't drink beer, or whatever the case is. So you are losing those customers, right? You're losing that impression. You're wasting that reach, effort, and that buy. Versus if you take it on the programmatic level, you're going to cut out people that don't have that interest. You're going to cut out people that aren't 21. You're going to cut out if you don't want to do a specific gender or people that live in a certain area. So if your product isn't available in a particular state, you're not going to serve an ad to people watching that content in that state. And then, like you mentioned too, the local stuff, right? So if it's your dentist or a fast food restaurant that's 3 blocks away from you, you're not going to send a message to someone that's 45 minutes away that's probably not going to go pick up that fast food from that distance.
I did not even think about, like, we'll say programmatically curating material for like underage, so I guess, okay, so this connected TV, the data, I'm assuming, don't be so good that, do you have the ability to, okay, so you take a household, for instance, I don't know, mom, dad, 2 kids, boy, girl, right? The Cowboys game is on. I guess there's a few assumptions that can be made on the programmatic advertising side as to what that connected TV is going to receive. Like, we can assume this isn't the case for everybody, but it's probably the dad watching the Cowboys game, maybe with the son, right? But if that's not the case, one would figure maybe the mom is really into the Cowboys. So let's assume that she, would you call that like a digital footprint that she would have? And then that data would be used to indicate that, yeah, mom's watching. We know that she's the one watching the Cowboys game. Therefore, we're going to put this set of advertising, in front of her. Is that possible? Is that how that works?
That one's a bit more tricky, and you run into that with linear TV as well, right? Where you're going to say, okay, we don't know exactly who's watching this, but we know that we're sending it to this household or to this particular audience. So yeah, that one, you basically have the same, you're acting on good faith or the assumption that the person that you think is watching it, but then, with things like account sharing and stuff like that, it's not possible to be 100% sure, but it's, pretty high likelihood.
Right. Unbelievable. So I would assume as a video producer, someone that has to generate commercials, I generate commercials every day. This would probably increase the, commercial, because now you're getting businesses that would have never gone down the video production route, because what's the point? Where's it going to go? It's not going to get to my audience, but that is not the case. Now it definitely is.
Yeah, you'll know it. And then even with that too, it's, with programmatic in particular, if you select a household like we're talking about with Simplify's AAC tool, and you have it based on these demographics, that someone in that house will fit that profile. So even if that person that actually sees that ad isn't that one that you're trying to target, they might be in the market for a gift, or they might still talk about it, and that, that impression, that conversation will hopefully still happen, even if it's not that ideal person that you are intending to target.
And to continue on with, the concept of video programmatic in the world of connected TV, analytics, the ability to kind of know and confirm and measure, which is something, I don't know if most likely you're familiar with the Nielsen television rating system, and that it used to be just this massive player, because I used to have a friend, I guess it's kind of dating me, but I had some friends in college, they had scored being a Nielsen household. So what that means is they got money from Nielsen for them to install this box that hooked up to their cable television that monitored what they watched, and it grabbed data and things of that nature. And then the thing is that from my end, and I'm going to have to kind of check up on this after the fact, but I believe it was only like a couple thousand households within the entire country that had a Nielsen rating box. So many assumptions would be made on ratings based off of just a small sample of, comparatively speaking, a small sample. Millions of people in the United States, and then you just have a couple thousand people with the Nielsen rating box. But with programmatic advertising in these campaigns, you get, I would imagine, pretty accurate data.
You can get pretty granular. And I think for that starting technology and how they did it worked, for what it was in the time. And I know Nielsen is working on additional things to kind of tie in that linear, because people are still going to keep watching, cable. That's still going to be around, but they're figuring out how they can tie that in and kind of blend that a little bit more. And then, to your point on the attribution standpoint, you can get from, the online attribution. So whether it's on a, smartphone, tablet, or TV, someone saw an ad and then they went to a website, right? You're, whatever it is, you're selling toothbrushes. They go to a website, they buy a toothbrush, and then okay, we know they saw an ad, we went to the website, they made that conversion. You could also do offline attribution as well. So same type of thing. If you saw the commercial for a local, restaurant or whatever it is, and then they go to it within a week later, that they've seen that commercial on whichever device through the cross-device matching, and then a device from that household went to that location. You can't measure that sale necessarily, but you know that they've seen that ad, and then they went to that location where they were, that call to action was distributed to them.
That's incredible. That's
Pretty
incredible
impressive,
stuff.
yeah.
It's wild. Let's go. Let's talk a little bit about video programmatic utilizing. Is it geotagging? What do you call it? We're geolocating.
Yeah, geolocation, geofencing, all that tracking of data, so you could set up of.
Yeah, explain geofencing. Explain how that would work with somebody's programmatic video ad campaign. Like how would that concept, I don't know, impact them, reach their customer, just using the geofencing?
So let's use an auto dealership, for example, right? So let's say we're in the mid-cities here in DFW. Let's say you have a car dealership in Arlington, and you know that physical location. So you would draw just a digital circle around that parking lot, the office. It can get pretty granular as far as, within a couple meters. So it's very accurate.
Wow. It's incredible.
So you know that location of where you want your customers to end up going. And then with the addressable end of it, you can draw a geofence at the household level as well. So that's the target fence is where, or actually, yeah. So the geofence around the house, and then let's say maybe you want to target a competitor dealership. So you put a convergence zone around your business. That's where you want them to end up. And let's say you want to target a competing dealership down the street. So then you can put a geofence, draw one around them as well, a target fence, so that anyone that goes to that location and then goes home, you can serve an ad for that customer to come to your dealership. So that's how you can get people saying, okay, I know they're going to areas around me. Why aren't they coming to my business? Or I want to remind them that I'm there. Get them based on their location to go there, serve the ad, then get them to come back to your dealership so that you know that they've seen an ad, came back to you. Or if you just wanted to, like, if they, maybe you're a retail shop or something, and they come to you basically would do both of them on your business. So you've got the target fence where they come through, they serve an ad, they were there, and then you want them to come back, serve an ad, and then they come through the conversion zone, and you can measure that as well. So it can kind of work whether on your business or on competitors.
So the next thing that comes to mind is, of course, price. And I would imagine that, if a business owner who's thinking about implementing programmatic advertising for whatever media content that they want to push out there, they might think that these methods are expensive. Maybe they are. I'm not entirely certain. Is it done per clicks, per interactions? Like is it affordable? Is this pricey at the moment? I don't know.
So everyone does it a little bit different way, right? So kind of the bigger players will have quite high minimums that you have to meet. Some players or providers rather, say, hey, we'll take whatever you want to get. So kind of depends on, the amount of data that you're going to want to layer in there, the complexity of the campaign. So it really kind of varies. I would say it's competitive with Facebook and Google. It's within that realm. It's not, absurdly cost prohibitive.
Where does Google sit in all of this in terms of, like, what are the big players of these programmatic systems and this form of advertising? Like you in airlines, you got American Airlines, you got United, you got Delta, and I think Southwest is now within, I think that's the big four. We know who those players are, and we know where they sit within the industry. What's the comparable list for these sort of services?
So yeah, digital advertising as a whole, it's going to be dominated by Facebook and Instagram, kind of as one, obviously, and then Google, right? Those are the two players that for over a decade have had, I don't know what the exact number is, but it's the majority of digital advertising spending. So programmatic companies are significantly getting more, especially with the privacy issues. So with Facebook, or between Facebook and Apple, cutting off that data a little bit, there was a big hit to Facebook. Still very effective, of course. But yeah, as far as programmatic goes, there's a lot. there's a lot to look up and a lot to dive into. So I'd encourage anyone curious about that to do some Googling, see what's out there. I know Trade Desk is a big one. Basis, Stack, Adapt, Simplify is working our way up into those conversations, certainly. So yeah, it's a lot. And then there's a lot of, kind of sort of like a digital advertising agency, kind of like the big players and then the boutique agencies, right? So you've got really small specialized ones that will do, maybe it's only display or maybe it's only video or only mobile. So there's a lot going on in that space right now.
All right, let's talk about the future and where I think we know kind of where we're at currently. And some of the things you've been discussing are amazing, incredible. How far is this? Is it ever going to end? Like, we watched like Minority Report. If you remember the Spielberg movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise. And there's this moment where he walks into, I think it was a Gap. Remember the Gap? When's the last time you were in a Gap?
Oh, it's been a little bit.
It's been a hot minute for me too. But
nothing against Gap, but
when's the last time you were in a shopping mall?
I was at Dick's recently, Northeast Mall, so just this last weekend. But before that, it had been a while.
I went to the shopping mall for the first time in a long time over the holidays because I had to get Cinnabons for like Christmas morning. So I had to go get Cinnabon, and the only place I could think of really was like Cinnabon, like that. Anyway, so I went into the Grapevine Mills mall, and it was like sort of like a trip back in time, but it was also I digress. The point of the matter is that Tom Cruise in the movie Minority Report walks into the Gap and it recognizes his eyes or something like that and starts pushing specific products to Tom Cruise. And the digital signage in the Gap starts tailoring things to him, which I'd imagine like now that we're, I don't know, many years removed from Minority Report. I don't know, that might have been 2000, maybe 2002.
Yeah, early 2000s, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Now we're kind of seeing how this sort of technology is starting to be flushed out and augmented reality. I mean, one would imagine, okay, so eventually we're going to have augmented reality glasses. Maybe Apple makes them. I don't know. Maybe it's Microsoft. I think they have the HoloLens headset. But once these sort of wearables start entering our everyday lives now there's an opportunity for programmatic advertising to hit a whole other level, where things are projected around us and that. So, but just based off of your experience with this technology and sort of the aggregation, our digital footprints and the information that what is the potential? Where is it going to potentially go?
So your specific example of custom signage, I think I don't remember the name of the company, but I believe they were in San Francisco, definitely somewhere in California. They basically are putting up, it's almost like a bus, like you're waiting for the bus, that little sort of mid-sized billboard right there. And they basically have that where they know kind of who has walked in front of it and then are serving custom ad based on that. So that's definitely starting to happen.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, the potential for, the augmented reality VR, there's a big talk about the metaverse, right? So I think that these same concepts will apply. If you're walking around in the metaverse, you go to somewhere there that you have a relevant ad or relevant product that you want to give to people, so that the same technology will apply there. But I think the big thing that a lot of people are waiting to see what's going to happen is on the legal side. So companies that are, building these capabilities that don't care as much about privacy, that are saying, all right, we're just going to harvest as much data as possible, they're going to be in trouble versus the companies, that are really more respectful of that personally identifiable information, the PII, and not serving ads that, are sort of questionable at the moment. So we're still in this period of it's the wild, wild west in the digital era, right? Where companies and technologies are outpacing regulation. So I think that will sort of catch up a little bit. So I think the future on that is yet to be seen, but it will definitely, there will have winners and losers, right? Based on kind of how you're operating now and with that uncertainty. But yeah, it'll continue accelerating, and I don't think it's going anywhere.
You mentioned that Apple had sort of put the kibosh on Facebook advertising, and I guess the data in which Facebook can get from an Apple device that someone owns. And maybe that was, I don't know the particulars of it, and I don't know if you know the particulars of it, but I'm assuming it was just, and it was Apple perhaps looking out for their consumer base. But could there also not be, there could be a high likelihood that a company like Apple could start to perhaps make a deal or start to cater to one advertising platform than another. And there you have a device creator, perhaps, and then it's like, well, that could it eventually lead to a monopoly? iPhones are so prevalent. It's such a very specific brand that, I have a Apple product right here. For them to get into any sort of confrontation with, we'll say, a Facebook or something like that, and then, they could completely limit Facebook's ability to advertise on an Apple phone entirely, and then cater more so to, a Facebook competitor. So what are your thoughts on that? And is that good? Is that bad? Is that just the way that it is? You touched a little bit on regulation and this technology and these services sort of outpacing the ability to regulate it. So.
Great question. It's obviously hard to tell, right? We don't have access or insight into what they're thinking. We kind of have the big events where they say, here's what we're working on, here's generally what we're thinking. But that's sort of an interesting point too, is the people that happen to be there or are making these technologies are the ones writing the rules and are getting to decide, the digital ethics of these things. So back to kind of the start of this of, what happened with Apple and Facebook of sort of cutting off that data access. Basically, Apple, I think it was in iOS 14 or maybe 15, that recent update, they asked you if you want to be tracked by companies. So every app you have to now give permission, and you can say, okay, I want this, app tracking enabled or not. So that basically either allows you to turn on or off you basically have an Apple ID, like an advertiser ID, then that's how Facebook ties it to your device, ties it to your activity on Facebook, and then Facebook. So they have it.
So they gave the option.
Right. Which didn't exist before, because it was just like, okay, we have these devices out there.
How many people were like, I'm down with this. This is okay.
No, there's different numbers out there.
Okay.
And, polls, I think probably most people are still going to continue to opt in.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
based off of what we talked, because as you said at the beginning of this conversation, if you really think about it, you kind of want advertising to be targeted towards you, because it just saves your time and gets products that perhaps you need or want in front and center, instead of,
or would have never even known about,
or that. But of course, and the subject of data comes into, and data is valuable, and some people might see their data as precious, and of course people don't want to become the product, right, themselves. But yeah, it's a very, is that a catch-22? Is that I guess a double-edged sword in a way?
It's hard to tell. I think it hasn't been destructive and has been overall positive so far, right, for the things we pointed out. But I think it's good that people are becoming more aware of it. So seeing it kind of like go, in that that understanding of, okay, well, my behavior is being, tracked and assessed, and having basically machines bid on that activity. What do I think about that? So it's giving people the option to have that consideration. So then I think kind of more of those conversations will get to this point of, like we're seeing with a lot of social issues and political issues, people getting more into the fray, or people that still just say, you know what, I don't want to have anything to do with that. I'm happy with the way things are. So I think at the end of it, whatever the outcome is, it's good that more people are aware of it and more people are talking about it.
And then going down the political rabbit hole, which is a deep rabbit hole. We make political campaign ads here at Meticulous when it's the campaign season, right? I don't know. I mean, that genre of commercial within the programmatic and targeted ad campaign space, when you're dealing with people's data, I mean, who people vote for and you know, what political party they're affiliated with, at least here in the United States, is sort of seen as, hey, it's like a sacred sort of thing, because, you know, I mean, it's just the way America is with the democracy and that whole thing. So what a rat's nest that must be. And I don't know how Simplify deals with any of that political stuff. Okay. So I'm not sure how that's navigated. But I'm assuming I'm not a voter myself. I can't be a voter because I'm a Canadian citizen. If you couldn't tell by my flappy head and my beady eyes. But when you register to vote, I'm sure there's quite a bit of data that goes out there, and that data is made available to governments, the political campaigns or political parties and that sort of thing. And I guess from then on, that data then would probably mix with all the other data that you have from your digital footprint and
Yep, it's all layered
your
in.
location. And then now you're receiving, political ads that are perhaps affiliated with you, perhaps not affiliated with your point of view. Does that sound apt? Is that okay?
Yeah, right on the money. I mean, and everyone does it differently, right? Like Twitter didn't allow political ads for a long time. Elon has now purchased the platform, as I'm sure everyone knows, and has turned that back on. So people look at that as a good or a bad thing. I think it's good, right? I think that's how you get to the best possible answer and solution for anything, of take two competing ideas or arguments or whatever they are, and then you make that decision for yourself. So I think for a platform to decide to shut either side off, whatever that is,
right,
that's probably harmful, whatever your view is, right? Where whatever the best idea is, you should debate that, discuss it, and then ascertain as a community or as an individual what you want to do about whatever that is. So I think the more you can get those messages in front of people, the better.
I love the fact that, much to Facebook's dismay, that Apple, the creator of the device, gave those that put Facebook on their phones or tablets the option. Like, here's what's going on. Would you like to share your data? Yes or no? I think that's probably a good way to go about it. I know from, and I haven't dove really into the issue, but I know that Facebook was pretty pissed off. I think they were probably pretty ticked. But that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Mr. Zuckerberg was very happy with that one from Mr. Cook. Yeah.
Let's see, more the future. So we talked a little bit about augmented reality. Where else could this go? Where else could video programmatic, if we were to theorize 10, 15, 20 years from now, the methods in which we are targeted, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's limitless. Maybe it's there's no point in having the discussion, because eventually, it just really kind of hinders on the amount of data that could be gathered. And I mean, and then the product, of course, that's being pitched and shown, and I mean,
it's interesting to think about. So, I mean, I don't know. We talked about ChatGPT a little bit. So we've got a lot of AI and content generation from a writing level and a visual level coming out, right? So I don't know. I mean, if you look at maybe video games, right? So you've got people playing particular levels or, online, areas, right? Where you could have, based on what they've done outside, kind of be in the game a little bit, right? So whether it's like a billboard in the game, every player that runs across whatever area that you kind of would want to put up as a space, programmatic ads could be in there. Maybe you could have some sort of like in television shows and movies, right? Where if you have a scene where maybe someone's watching TV, they're watching a commercial and you want to do a product placement, right? Or you want to have like a soda or some sort of food item on a table somewhere where it could generate in real time, right? Like you know,
change and alter.
Right.
That is bonkers, and that is completely possible. Knowing what I know about the visual effects and real-time visual effects and the updates that have, it could be possible to say we'll just use a soda can as an example.
Right.
So someone might watch, I don't know, Leonardo DiCaprio sit down at a table and pop a soda can and have a drink. And my household, my phone might see Coca-Cola.
Yep.
Somebody...
but if you're a Pepsi house, then you're seeing Pepsi. If you
right.
think Dr. Pepper, then you're going to see Dr. Pepper.
Or if you're an RC Cola household, that doesn't exist. No one drinks RC Cola. I'm sorry, RC.
Someone must, though, right?
Fanta. Fanta. I didn't know. I was over in Europe recently, and Fanta's big there.
Oh, yeah? Big presence?
But I can't find a damn Fanta anywhere around here. Remember the Fanta girls?
I do.
Wanta Fanta? Don't you wanta?
That was in the movies, right?
That was targeted directly to me.
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't the
just
movies.
For you, right?
Yeah,
like the previews and
what up,
with the lights still up.
Don't you wanna? Yeah, that's bonkers. That's a really radical idea. That's completely possible.
Well, I mean, I don't know if anyone is doing that, so people call it dibs and sort of
make it happen. I can create the engine to do it.
Yeah.
We can do that. I don't know if we can. Like right now, I don't know if we can. That's
what I'm saying. We'll call dibs. Like, okay, you heard it here first. We're just
you heard it
plant
here
the flag
first.
And anybody who wants to collaborate with us.
Meticulous image. Yeah, that's a good point.
You know?
Hey, if there's anybody out there that wants to create real-time visual effects for media that swaps out the advertising specifically to advertising specifically tailored to whatever demographic, give us a shout here, because I would be very, very interested in that.
That'd be cool.
Crazy. Well, I think that's pretty much. Let me check my list here. I have not been following the list because the conversation has been so good. These are from Byron Waldrip. Byron Waldrip. He works for Meticulous. He's our client services fella, making sure that our Meticulous clients are happy. But he used to work in programmatic advertising, and he used to sell programmatic advertising. So he came up with a list of questions here. So maybe we can fill. I think. Okay, what are some of the best practices to follow for video programmatic ad buying?
It's going to vary on what you're trying to do, right? What your goal is and what you're who you're selling to, what your business is. But I mean, the general marketing things of making sure your message is clear, getting it to the right audience, thinking through those things of, am I reaching the right person, or am I just casting the wide net like we were talking about earlier, taking the shotgun approach. So being as thoughtful as you can in your campaign planning. I would say not being stuck in what you've done before, right? Being willing to try new things, obviously, especially going into 2023 with marketing budgets probably being under more scrutiny and maybe being a little bit reduced based on economic uncertainty ahead. So you want to be smart with your dollars, right? You don't want to just go and try a bunch of stuff that you're not quite sure is going to work. So trying to find that balance of, what has worked before, but not being too comfortable with what you have. So I know that wasn't specific to programmatic, but.
No, but it's applicable for sure. The global programmatic ad spending is now roughly 75% of total spend. This was in 2022. Do you feel this will continue to be an upward trend?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, like we've kind of talked about too, we're seeing Google and Facebook sort of lose their dominance in the digital advertising market. So I think with more tools becoming available and different uses of data, and especially on the global scale, like you mentioned, different companies having different countries rather having different regulations, we'll see that being broken up and distributed probably a little bit more. But yeah, definitely programmatic will continue to grow, I think.
What are there significant benefits of video programmatic versus broadcast video? This is like a lightning round.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, I think they've both got their purposes. I think the main advantages would probably be the attribution on top of the targeting. So kind of like we discussed, getting a little bit more knowledge or a little bit more knowledge into what your customer has done or potential customer has done after they've seen that advertisement.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you tell us about the difference of in-stream video ad versus outstream? And are both advantageous? I don't know what that is.
I'm going to be totally honest. I don't either. I will never act like I know something that I don't, but I mean, in-stream versus outstream.
I'm assuming like mid-stream banner ads. I should call up Byron right now and get him on the line.
They can answer?
I'm not going to.
Okay. Yeah, from that perspective, I don't know. If that's what he's talking about, if it's sort of like the pre-roll, mid-roll, post-roll
I think
type placement of the ad within a video.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Obviously, pre-roll is probably going to be more substantial. Well, maybe not though, because here's the thing. Is if one was to weigh which is superior, pre, mid, or post, but it's a targeted advertisement placed within a piece of content that is targeted itself for a specific niche audience, then you know that those that are truly serious about the subject matter within that particular piece of content are the ones that are most likely going to buy the service or product that is advertised in the mid-roll, because they're the ones left watching, and probably the same for the post. So it's almost as if as you move on the timeline of the video, those that are left of however long that piece of content is are probably pretty serious about.
I agree. If you're
theory,
right. No, I think you're totally right on with that. If you're looking at an advertisement that's related to the content that they're watching, but if you're watching something that's totally unrelated to what the product is, then I don't know. I'd be curious to pull some metrics and conversion rates on that, because if you're watching a video and let's say it's not related to the content, so like say you're trying to research a product, like a new computer or something, but then you're getting ads for to order pizza. Are you going to be more inclined to stop or watch the pre-roll ad, pause that video, click through, look at the ad, decide if you want to do that? Or are you going to do that in the middle, where you're kind of in the middle of the video and going, stop this advertisement, I don't want to see this right now? Or when you've done and saying, okay, I got what I wanted out of this video, watch the post-roll. Oh, actually, yeah, that's a good point. And then you kind of move into that next phase of like maybe get a click-through on a website or a form fill. So
yeah, because then interactions can kind of throw a little bit of this is fascinating stuff, dude.
There's a lot of variables.
There's a lot of variables. But I mean, I guess that's kind of the whole idea, is that you're navigating those variables, or you're utilizing data, or the subject matter within the content itself to mitigate those variables and get specific, get granular, get targeted.
Yep. And that's another big advantage too of programmatic, is if you kind of notice things happening, you're seeing conversion rates that are kind of low or kind of high, you can adjust kind of mid-flight, versus traditional campaigns. Like if you buy a billboard or you get a physical, advertisement or linear buy, it's a little bit harder to adjust that during the campaign mid-flight, versus you can look at things that have happened, optimize it, and then increase performance from the middle until the end, rather than waiting until you're done and then trying again later.
Now you just brought up something that I think is definitely going to happen, and that is in accordance to the programmatic advertising that is attached to a specific piece of content. There is a possibility that the audience of that piece of content, based on how they interact with the advertisement, based on that data, changing the outcome of the narrative of the piece of content that they're watching. it's very possible that there is going to be a merging of programmatic advertising in perhaps real time, or as the viewer looks at that material, the data can then actually wind up changing the piece of content that they are watching, like a video game, like a Goosebumps book. Do you remember? I don't know if you were into Goosebumps, but there was like towards the end of the Goosebumps, although I think they're still making Goosebumps, but there was like a pick your ending. You would have these sort of avenues you could go down as you read the story. The story was linear, but it branched out in different directions. So there might be later on, years from now, as people like me begin to have this ability to create material quicker, faster, and in bigger varieties, a way of taking this data and seeing how these interactions with specific advertisements and then tailor the content to go the direction that would be preferable for that particular audience member, but also tailor the content so that that audience member is more likely to buy whatever is being promoted through the programmatic advertising.
Yeah. I think there's definitely something to there. That makes me think too of like what you're saying about the pick your own adventure type thing, right? Maybe you're watching an ad and then you can interact with it, whether it's on a touchscreen or on a control from your remote. Maybe it's like, do you want this person to open door 1 or door 2 or pick sort of a different...
Sure, I think we've seen like it's gimmicky. It's
right.
Gimmicky.
It's early stage. Yeah.
So the question is how do you make it how do you make it become the norm? I think maybe the programmatic or the AR implementation of advertising might, or maybe the VR might sort of open up people's minds in terms of real time altering their ad experience and their content experience. But that's bonkers. That's really bonkers, and for somebody like me, incredibly exciting. Because that's just gonna, make some good justification for what I do and what I think about on an hourly basis.
I bet.
Is how to make material that is relevant to a specific audience. Wild. So the last question on Byron's list is, how does video programmatic benefit the publisher's relationship with the client?
The publisher being like ESPN?
Yeah, sure.
Or just, the person that's putting out content that then you're interacting with?
Yeah.
I think it's highly advantageous to them, to where, kind of like we were discussing earlier, it takes the guesswork out of saying, okay, I think, whether it's ESPN or a news network or AMC or Lifetime, whatever it is, instead of telling your advertisers, okay, hey, we think this demographic of age, gender, location, we believe they're watching this, versus saying, hey, we're going to put this content out. We have X amount of impressions available. Bring your data to us. I think that's a really symbiotic relationship that benefits both parties. So I think we're seeing a lot of that now, a lot of deals coming through of, companies saying, all right, we've got this inventory, but we don't know exactly what to do with it, putting it on the open real-time bidding environment, and then letting the data companies do what they do. So I think it's great for both sides.
Well, that's all I got. And this has been a very thought-provoking conversation. I do have to read an advertisement from our sponsor.
Please do.
So I will read this advertisement.
All right.
Well, let's see. All right, here it is. Get ready for this one. Are your toes feeling the chill? Well, put on a pair of Happy Yak socks and watch them turn from frosty to cozy in no time. Made from 100% Mongolian and Tibetan yak cashmere, our socks are not only ridiculously warm, but also incredibly dry and seriously stink-free. Whether hiking, skiing, or engaging in any other athletic activity, Happy Yak has got you covered with various socks, scarves, gloves, and beanies to choose from. But don't take our word for it. Try a pair of Happy Yak socks today and see why once you go yak, you never go back. ChatGPT wrote that.
Great job, chat. And it sounds like a great product, too, on top of that.
It is pretty good. Do you want some?
Sure, I'll try it out.
We have a whole bunch of Happy Yak swag in the back.
I would be honored to try it out, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Corbin Cunningham.
Thank you for having me.
For coming on IKAG. And hopefully now you know a guy who is marketing. What's the title? Oh gosh. Product marketing manager.
Correct.
Now you know a product marketing manager. Want to fist bump me?
Oh, yeah, we'd do that.
Goodbyes. Signing off's always awkward.
So long.
I don't know.
Till next time.
I need a beer.